It's time for our weekly legal segment here on Midday Maryland. You have a lawyer. Joining us now is Scott Goldstein from Saiontz and Kirk. Thank you for joining us, Scott.
Always good to see you.
You too. So I know you wanted to talk today about dispelling some of the myths about what transpires in the courtroom when you're there.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that people never understand is when you get that notice for jury duty and you go in, and let's say you do get selected for a case and it happens to be a negligence case, an automobile case, even a medical malpractice case. There are multiple things that as the lawyers we are not allowed to disclose to the jury, and these are courtroom myths.
Okay.
And these myths really, in my opinion, interfere with the administration of justice. One of the things people have no idea about is the fact that the defendant that's sitting there that caused the motor vehicle accident,
right,
the attorney that's next to him, paid for by an insurance company at no cost to the defendant. And guess what? When you return a verdict against the defendant to try and compensate the poor, injured plaintiff, it's being paid by an insurance company.
Insurance company.
The myth is that that young man, that 18-year-old who rear-ended you, or that doctor who caused your malpractice, is going to be forced to pay that individually. But in fact, all of those funds are coming from the insurance company. There are many other myths as well. The fact that the defendant has any kind of input into how the case is handled. The insurance company's calling the shots from day one.
Wow.
So even if you're sitting there and you're the responsible party and you feel bad about what you've done and you'd like to see that person fairly compensated, guess what? The carrier doesn't care.
Really?
It's up to them, not you.
Because the person really on trial there would be the insurance company. In a way, they're going to be the ones that are paying out.
That's true, but if I mention the word insurance, in all likelihood what we're going to have is a mistrial. The judge is going to state that I have prejudicially influenced the jury, and as a result of it, he's going to strike that entire jury panel and make us start over again.
For the layman, why is that? Why is that the case that you just can't say it? Is it that it biased the jury?
Well, the myth is that the concept behind it was that if jurors actually know that insurance companies are paying verdicts rather than individuals, that they would be more inclined to just give money away recklessly. I think nothing could be further from the truth.
Right.
In my opinion, to mislead jurors, to tell them half of the story about what they're really there and what they're really doing, that's the biggest injustice. You have a right to know. When you sacrifice your time, when you give your effort and attention to sit on a jury and to try and deliver justice, you should know really what is taking place and how you're going to impact the process.
Right, the entire story. And you said there's a third myth as well.
Well, there are other myths as well. For example, a jury cannot award what are called punitive damages unless you can demonstrate that that individual intended to injure someone. So there are two types of damages: compensatory damages to try and compensate you for what you've lost, but the law also recognizes punitive damages to punish people for bad conduct.
Right.
So if someone is a drunken driver and they cause injury to you and the jury finds their behavior to be egregious, in all but the tiniest percentage of cases, they are prohibited from punishing the defendant by awarding punitive damages. Just another example of the kinds of myths that jurors have to operate under.
This is amazing information. I think we don't really think about that when we're called for jury duty or when we're securing a lawyer if something happens and we're in an accident.
It's absolutely true. And, you know, I've had jurors come up to me after they've rendered a verdict and say, Mr. Goldstein, how's that nice young man going to pay for that verdict? And I say, ma'am, do you own a motor vehicle? Do you have insurance on that car? And sometimes I've had a lady say to me, oh my God, if I had realized insurance was paying, I would have more fairly compensated your client.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Scott. That is really important information, and I think that it's new information for a lot of people, so thank you.
Unfortunately sad, but true.
Absolutely. And we will be back with more Midday Maryland right after the break.